Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that, but don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new episode of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 260. We are covering the movies that are coming out for the week of Friday, September 20th. Here is a caveat for this episode though. Episode 260 will be split up into two episodes. I don't even know if the second episode should be episode 261. As we're recording this, it's on a Tuesday. You will be hearing this episode 260 on a Thursday. Whatever that episode we name it on Friday, you're going to get a separate episode, which will be me and Eric Holmes' Frank Grillo special episode. Eric Holmes, I'm joined by my better Eric Holmes. Eric Holmes, can you tell our listeners, our CinemAddicts, Patreon members, patrons, our just most importantly, fellow cinephiles, why this week is split into two and what the heck is Friday's Frank Grillo special with a bullet episode?
Frank Grillo is just too good to put into one episode, so we have to do a several.
Okay.
Actually,
sure.
real quick, I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm going to vamp. I'm going to keep this rolling. Yeah, you be right back. Eric Holmes is actually leaving CinemAddicts as we speak, but actually for this episode, we will be covering the movies In the Summers, Last Straw. By the way, Last Straw is a movie that both Eric Holmes and I did see, and I believe Bruce Purkey also saw it. You can actually check out Bruce Purkey's review of In the Summers, Last Straw, and The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry on his latest segment of CinemAttic. And Eric Holmes is doing a review of a movie called The Featherweight. And for the second part of this episode, I'm just going to call this CinemAddicts episode part 2. On Friday, Eric Holmes and I are going to review the Frank Grillo movies Long Gone Heroes and Hounds of War. Eric Holmes, you were gone for 20 seconds. I was ready to vamp for about 2 minutes. Did you want to be gone for a little bit more, like a minute more, so you can do your?
No, I got a bad toothache, so I had to take some ibuprofen.
Oh, do you have to go to the dentist? What's going on with the toothache?
I do, but
when are you going to do it?
Podcasting doesn't have dental insurance, so
really,
you got to deal with it.
Oh, wait, you're going to see a dentist soon, though, right? Please tell me. I'm sorry, my dentist.
I don't have dental insurance, so
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
we'll talk.
Right. This is America, folks. Greatest healthcare system on the planet.
Oh, okay, that is sarcasm.
It's like grit your teeth and bear it, and then when you grit your teeth, it hurts even more when you have a toothache.
Oh my gosh, how long have you had the toothache? Just recently?
A couple weeks.
Oh my gosh, Eric, I'm so sorry to hear that. I had a toothache a while, and I'm on Mehiel, which is, I don't know if you have Mehiel over in Colorado, but it's free medical insurance for people who are poor like me.
Oh.
And so I don't know.
I don't know. We might have something like that.
Hopefully, look into this. Look, you know what? Can you do a 7-day just like don't even watch movies for a week and just leave it to me and Bruce for next week and just look up insurance and then tooth and ache. Maybe there can be a guy who knows the guy who will help you on the toothache. So I hope you feel better, Eric Holmes. I'm literally concerned.
I'll feel better here in about 10 minutes when the ibuprofen kicks in.
Okay.
I'm thinking of doing that Tom Hanks thing from Castaway, but Eric, I need to find an ice skate.
Okay. Eric Holmes, please, you are alarming me because when we start raking in the millions from CinemAddicts and you're just on a corner in an alley holding your tooth and just debilitating, the money's going to be no good because Bruce and I will clean it up and you might be 6 feet under because of that toothache. I'm really worried. What's going on?
Yeah, but then you only have to split it 2 ways instead of 3, so it works.
I mean, that's good news. Okay, so this is getting very dark again. So for CinemAddicts episode 260, again, even though I do have my fake Greg Srisavasdi voice, I am legitimately concerned for Eric Holmes, and not to make you even more nervous about it, but Eric Holmes is an adult. He's bigger and taller and stronger than me. So why you're supposed to tell that you're an adult and you know how to handle yourself. You want to do it in 3, 2, 1. Say it.
You're right about everything.
Oh, okay. That does not give me comfort. So again, CinemAddicts episode 260, part 1, In the Summers, Last Straw, The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. My bad. And The Featherweight. Eric Holmes, last week. The last several weeks, we have actually been talking about how you work too much. You're going to work yourself to the grindstone. I think this theme has been going on for the last maybe 3 to 4 episodes. Is the train continuing to go on that you're getting burned out destination where you're watching too many movies, doing too many interviews, and working too much? Where are you right now? Mental state of mind?
Mentally, I'm as bad as I've ever been.
Oh, that's horrible.
So that's normal.
That's how long that's been normal for the last 5 years. And last 5 years of you and Bruce doing this, but I've never asked you how have you been. I feel like a total jerk. So you're okay? You're not good.
Oh yeah. This mentally bad is my zero.
Is your normal? Okay, so mentally bad. Okay, so I'm just bad.
So if I get mentally worse, that's no good. But if I get mentally better, it's like hey, Christmas.
Do not get mentally worse until me, you, and Bruce and Anderson rake in the millions for CinemAddicts. So right?
Yeah.
Can you wait for that? Hold off to that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe something really bad will happen, and then the podcast will trend. I'll be dead. The podcast will do great, and then you don't have to split it. That's one less. It's all part of the plan. Really.
It's all part. Eric, this is not making me very happy. I really don't want to interview. I don't want to interview people and review movies anymore. I'm really concerned about Eric Holmes. Okay.
I'll just use AI. It's fine.
Just use it. Oh, thank you. I was showing Eric Holmes and Bruce Purkey all the wonders of AI this morning about a plot.
What was it like being on the set of the Featherweight?
We're going to get to the Featherweight. So unfortunately, I've been eating too much. I used to be a featherweight. Now I am a bloated weight. But we'll get to that in a second. And AI, oh my gosh, AI is really helping my life as far as the editing inflows and outflows, but you didn't hear it first. Okay. I mean, Eric and Bruce are you anti-AI or are you pro-AI or are you, like you said, middle ground? You're neutral are you Thailand in the Vietnam War conflict? Are you just basically buffer? It doesn't, neither here nor there for you, AI?
AI is good as a tool, but if you're going to use it to replace art, then I don't see what the point is.
For example, we were interviewed with Juan Pablo Raba, which was actually posted on our CinemAddicts CinemAddicts YouTube channel yesterday. Juan Pablo Raba is a great actor. He stars in this new movie co-starring Frank Grillo called Long Gone Heroes. We'll be reviewing that in the next episode. But I did a transcription of Juan Pablo Raba. I didn't do it. I actually clicked a button on my editing tool. They transcribed it within maybe 10 seconds. And then I used AI to summarize the interview. And they summarized your interview with Raba in several sentences. Took 2 seconds. What did you think of that? Do you think that's useful or do you think that's a little bit harmful?
I think using AI to transcribe something is probably useful.
But how about summarizing your entire 10-minute conversation, 11-minute conversation? And
then you start leaning into art, and then it's like, kind of, what's the point?
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, I'm just saying, maybe if you and Bruce we have AI avatars in CinemAddicts next week. Let's see how it goes. And maybe you guys, you can get your tooth fixed. Bruce can relax and hang out and then see the natures of Alabama. And
the thing is, I definitely won't be able to get my tooth fixed because we won't be getting the money. The money will all go towards the AI.
Eric?
In fact, we won't be podcasting anymore. The AI will be podcasting, which, it's a
slippery slope.
Might not be a terrible thing.
Might not be. Oh, okay. But look, Eric, one last thing before we get to the movies, okay? The movies again, episode 260, we are covering movies. Opening Friday, September 20th.
I did change Bruce's water bowl.
Right. Okay. He's okay. So Bruce
he's not okay, but I changed his water bowl. So.
He was messaging me that you're not giving him really good kibbles and what is it called? Kibbles and bits, nibbles and bits. You're not giving him really good. You're not giving him really good dog food the last week and a half. It's not been really.
No, it's not kibbles and bits. It's the generic brand. It just says Bruce food on it.
Oh, Bruce over the counter generic food. He's a podcast co-host. Maybe once we make our millions, you'll start getting the really good stuff, right? The High Pro Glow Alpo. You're not going to give it? No?
Nope.
Sorry, Bruce Purkey. Continue your fine work over at CinemAttic. But you know what? I've been blabbing about. You and I saw this movie called Last Straw. We're going to get to Last Straw in a second. But Eric Holmes, I want you to lead our first segment, which is a review of a movie called The Featherweight. Eric Holmes is the only one who has seen this. It premiered at the 80th Venice International Film Festival. It hits New York and Connecticut September 20th. And then September 27th, it hits Los Angeles. And it says, here is a quick plot summary. Set in the mid-1960s, The Featherweight presents a gripping chapter in the true life story of Italian-American boxer Willie Pep. Pep is played by actor James Matteo in this feature. This boxer, this pugilist, is the winningest fighter of all time who, down and out in his mid-40s and with his personal life in shambles, decides to make a return to the ring. I was interested in The Featherweight because I saw the trailer. It has a documentary look with an indie feel. Should be interesting. It got a showing at the Venice International Film Festival. It's directed by Robert Kolodny. Eric Holmes, shed some light on the Featherweight, if it's a waste of time for you or if this is an interesting movie to watch.
Well, so I was not familiar with the movie going in. I just hit play on the link and
yes, keep it going. Yeah, keep it going. You're good.
So anyway,
I don't know what that was, but that was someone else. Who's this? Oh, yeah. Oh, hold on, one second. Hey, Bruce, what's going on? Oh no, Bruce just came in. What's going on, Bruce?
How'd you get out?
He's on a car.
I'm on the road.
Eric, what are you doing? He has a car?
That's it. You're going back in the shackles when you get back here.
Okay. What is going on? We were just talking a lot of wonderful stuff about you, Bruce Purkey.
It's hot in here. It's hot in here. You're supposed to open the windows when you leave me here.
Very, very. Where are you off to? So you've escaped the Holmes residence. You thank goodness. I've always been pulling for your escape. Where are you off to now, Bruce Purkey, CinemAttic? Where are you going to?
I don't know. I just hit the road and I started rolling, and hopefully some fine person will help me run out of gas. I was going to go to a diner. I decided I'm going to go to a diner. It's called what is it called? Oh, I don't know. It's really old fashioned.
What are you gonna have?
I don't know. I just thought I'd go in there. I'm gonna go in there with a mask on and tilt my head a little bit. And I think I'll bring some roadkill with me, and I think that they'll take me in. So anyway, I'm gonna let you guys keep talking, but I thought I'd let you know that I got out. So you
Bruce,
have me now.
Bruce, this is the last straw. You get back up in your head.
Okay, have a good time. And remember, Bruce, no people food, okay? See you later. Okay, folks, that was the wonderful Bruce Purkey, who is actually out of his lair, and he is signing off right now. That is great. That is a wonderful thing. And he has a CinemAddicts shirt. My goodness. What are you doing, Eric Holmes? What a wonderful CinemAddicts shirt that Bruce Purkey has on. So you can get it over at CinemAddicts. What is it, Eric Holmes? CinemAddicts podcast.com.
Yeah. Well, you can get shower curtains, you can get t-shirts, you can get mugs, you get these wonderful, wonderful glasses.
Oh, yes, wonderful glasses over at CinemAddictsPodcast.com. Eric Holmes has been doing a lot of work. And look, the more money you can send to our coffers, it will go to Eric's some good cold hard cash so he can get that tooth fixed. I am focused on us making sure me, Bruce, and Eric have enough money so we can pay for some incidentals and for some life work, especially with a tooth. I am really worried about that. I'm also worried in a much lesser vein about the Featherweight. I'm bigger worried about the, Bruce and Purkey in the CinemAttic. You're doing a horrible job with that. You're doing a horrible job with your tooth. Is the Featherweight any good? Please tell me there's some good reason for you watching this movie.
Well, going into it, I did not know what it was. And so it started going off like a documentary. So I thought it was a documentary about some featherweight boxer I never heard of. It says it's based on a real life boxer. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't follow boxing.
Yeah, but, I think Willie Pep is a real boxer. I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's actually kind of weird too. Well, either way, so I'm watching it thinking it's a documentary, and then someone pops up that some of the camera stuff is kind of weird. It's like when they show like the old boxing matches. I'm like, they're using a lot of modern filmmaking technique in this. Something seems off about this.
Eric Holmes, Willie Pep born 1922, died 2006. So yes, Willie Pep was a boxer, real life American professional boxer. So to answer your question, Eric Holmes, sorry.
Well, there you go. Based on a real life boxer, not actual documentary, but once. Like I started thinking it was like a fake documentary, and then Ron Livingston popped up, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is like
legit.
No, a mockumentary, I guess. Mockumentary implies that it's a comedy, and this isn't. But they made a movie using documentary style, like basically a fake documentary. And I'm watching it, and it's pretty good, but I couldn't I'm like, okay, this fake documentary thing kind of works as a novelty. But I don't know, like why, why you have the cameras there, you have these great actors in there, just make an actual movie with some,
I don't know what they're doing. I mean, I'm not the filmmakers. I would guess as a layperson, maybe they did this showy camera work or aesthetic to pull you in, Eric. And I guess it didn't do that for you, right?
It would have done it had they not used like Stephen Lang and Ron Livingston and actors that I'd be like, oh, okay, if they're not the actual person. Rocky Marciano comes in there, and he wasn't Rocky Marciano, it was someone else. So stuff like that kind of will tip you off. And then so I'm like, well, why is this a fake documentary? Why isn't this just a regular movie with actual filmmaking techniques and, good camera angles and whatnot? And then as the movie goes along, one of the kind of, heads bumping together, one of the things going on is Willie Pep and his wife. Willie Pep's constantly trying to, do his boxing thing, and his wife's an actor. And there's one of the things that really stood out. There was a scene where she had a bunch of people over because they're playing something on the television. And, she gets to finally watch her scene, and everyone gets to come together and watch her scene. And keep in mind, this is in the whatever year this is in. And so it's not like they can pause it, rewind it, record it, and watch it later. This is once it's on TV, once it's done, it's done. And Willie Pep comes home, gets jealous of the dude sitting next to his wife, kicks everyone out. And she's like, what the hell are you doing? And once everyone's out, she looks at the TV and she's like, oh, my scene has passed. So she just missed everything. And then so now she's doing an interview with the film, or not an interview with the filmmaker. They're just filming her. And she's saying what she really thinks of Willie, because she's angry with him. And then she's like, can you cut that out of the movie? They're like, well, we don't really have control of that. And then so she's kind of resigned to the fact that, oh no, I said this thing, what I thought was in private. And now eventually it's going to be out there for everyone, including Willie, to hear about it. So then now I understand why you're doing the fake documentary stuff. They're actually playing with the form instead of, hey, look, it's a documentary, but it's really not. And little bits like that throughout the movie, where the fact that the documentary filmmakers are there inform how the other characters interact with each other. And I thought that was really interesting. Okay. But yeah, if this were just a regular biopic on Willie Pep, would have been great. And that documentary angle that at first I was like, why are we even doing this? Turned out to be a boon for it. So I liked it. This was a good one.
Oh, okay. So it ended up gripping you then? Was it slow moving once you got into the groove of what they were trying to say?
No, it wasn't slow moving at all.
Okay, gotcha.
The only thing that threw me off is I didn't understand why it was done like a documentary, but then that started as it went on, it made more sense, and it actually affected the characters and how they interact with each other. And that was really interesting. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I like
good stuff. So the ensemble, like Eric was mentioning, you have Ron Livingston playing someone named Bob Kaplan. Stephen Lang, the aforementioned Stephen Lang, plays Bill Gore. Kara Gilchrist plays a character named Billy Papaleo Jr. We recently saw Kara Gilchrist in the movie Running on Empty. He was lead in that film. And again, I believe the wife, maybe is it the wife, or I don't know. Ruby Wolf plays Linda Papaleo. I'm assuming she might be the wife. And then again, Willie Pep is played by James Matteo. Eric Holmes, final thought and your rating on the Featherweight. Again, it's 99 minutes in, I believe, New York and Connecticut this week, and then Los Angeles next week. So Eric Holmes. Yes.
Yeah, it's not that long, but it's got that kind of epic feel because it spans so much of his life, but it's kind of cool. It's not like, it felt like it was longer than it was, but it did, but in a good way, if that makes sense. You ever see movies that are shorter, but they feel like a full meal? That's kind of what this one does. And it does a good meal. And it does in much less time. This was really good. I'd probably go 4.5 on this.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. And the characters, maybe it's their accents, I don't know, but a lot of them at certain points it reminded me of Goodfellas, just the way the characters interact with each other. Some of the boxing scenes lifted directly from Raging Bull, but I actually like this better than Raging Bull. I'm not a huge fan of that movie like most people are.
Okay, you're bearing the lead. The Featherweight. Can you say it? The Featherweight is a better movie than Raging Bull, and I'm gonna put it on our cinematics 100 times.
I would say that, but people fall over themselves over Raging Bull. I mean, Raging Bull's like a good character movie, but as a boxing movie, it's the boxing scenes are a little too stylized for me.
Whereas the Featherweight succeeds in that.
No, Featherweight has some parts that look like a Raging Bull. That stylized stuff that Raging Bull has, it just doesn't have as much of it, I guess. And when it pops up, maybe at this point I'm just used to Raging Bull. So when it pops up in featherweights, I'm like, oh, they're doing the Raging Bull thing, cool. And then it doesn't bug me as much. I can't explain why. I'm probably wrong, but
no. There's no such thing as right or wrong, Eric Holmes. And unless you're.
Oh, well, we'll get to that later on.
Oh, no. I refuse to say that. I don't refuse for you to say that you are wrong on anything. Anyways,
I do want to make clear, Raging Bull, not a bad movie. You
just really love the featherweight.
I do, and also not Scorsese's best. It's like mid-tier. Scorsese is fine.
Oh, no, that's fair. That's fair. Look, and if people ask you, Eric Holmes, I'm interested in the featherweight. The featherweight should appeal to cinephiles who like what?
Who like documentaries, who like boxing movies. So I think specifically boxing movies, because you say sports movies, that's a little too broad. Boxing movies always seem to narrow in on a certain type of person that's not necessarily in other types of sports.
Well, Eric, are you a boxing fan? Boxing movie fan then. So you would consider yourself in the bag as far as that, as the boxing genre? Because if you're not, then it's actually a wider appeal, right? Because, you know what I'm saying?
I like boxing movies. I'm trying to think of one I don't like. Probably Cinderella Man. But
I know Ron Howard. Yeah, your favorite director. Yeah. Ron Howard to Eric Holmes is what Steven Spielberg is to Anderson Cowan.
I would say this is better than Raging Bull, not as good as Rocky.
Oh,
so it's kind of in there, and that's a
good sweet spot.
And Raging Bull, as I said, Raging Bull, not a bad movie, but this isn't good company. I think
Raging Bull sucks. Okay, I was joking. I'm not going to cut that. I'm kidding, folks. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I love Raging Bull. I'm excited to see the featherweight. Here's the problem, though. Okay, Eric Holmes reviewed the featherweight. And he's also reviewed a whole bunch of movies. This is a thing that's going to happen with me, Eric, and Bruce moving forward. I think this has happened within the last week. For some reason, there are 6 to 8 movies that come out on a... Look, when you listen to D'Andre Miranda's opening, there's so many movies released in a month. That's maybe 7 or 8 years old. So that's, in a way, pretty much fake news. With us trying to cover 7 or 8 movies, there's a lot of movies that fall by the wayside. For example, I'm still trying to play catch up. 1 second. Mom, are you leaving? Okay. So that was I was just asking my mom. She's leaving. She might be going to
your mom in the attic?
Yeah, no, my mom is definitely not in the attic. No. In fact, with the wages I earn from CinemAddicts and the lack of care that I show Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes financially, I should be the one in the attic. No. Last week I missed out on Dead Money, which is this Emil Hirsch film that I think Eric gave. I think he gave 4 stars. Enjoyed the movie, if I recall, either 4 or 4.5. I think 4 stars. I missed out on that movie. A movie that Eric Holmes missed out on because he's watching so many movies is The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. Okay, Bruce and I saw it. Bruce, you're gonna hear Bruce's. I'm still shaken by Bruce's escape from the attic. By the way,
I would say the title alone would have turned me off of that movie. So
100%.
if you're saying that I would like it, I'm interested. So
can I say something? I can't even imagine you. We have like 7 or 8 movies to cover next week. So I don't know in good conscience if I could even recommend this to you, even though I love this so much, spoiler alert, because we're always in a state of catch-up. But I have a feeling that Eric Holmes will love The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. It stars Jim Broadbent as the aforementioned the titular character, Harold Fry. He's an elderly man, and he decides he's living a routine life with his wife, played by Penelope Wilton. For some reason, they don't seem very communicative, but they cohabit this nice house in the suburbs. Thing is, he gets a letter saying that his old friend Queenie is dying at a hospice. Okay? And instead of sending her a letter saying, I hope you get better, Harold Fry decides to write a letter and maybe actually not mail it. He starts off thinking, maybe I'll just walk a little bit further to the post office and then mail it to show her that I'm actually working towards how much she means to me. Nope. Harold Fry starts off with small steps. Ultimately, this is not a spoiler because this is the premise of the movie. He decides to go on a 450-mile walking journey to reach his dying friend, Queenie. And that is, quote, The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. It's directed by Hetty McDonald, the filmmaker behind the series Normal People. I believe Hetty directed like 7 episodes of that series, that popular series. And the movie shows the beauty of the English countryside as well as the various cities and the people that Harold Fry meets along the way. here are the barriers to entry. The title, The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry, is an unapproachable moniker. So much so that Eric Holmes, even if he did have time, which he doesn't, he probably wouldn't have seen this movie because of the title. Number 2, it could be construed as some kind of saccharine maudlin film about a guy who's just trying to visit a friend, and it sounds a little bit like Straight Story. Well, here's the good news. The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry is a great companion piece to Straight Story. If you love that David Lynch classic, you're going to possibly love, if not just at the lower base, appreciate The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry because of this one big thing. And as syrupy and honey-filled as one would think, it does not traffic in overly sentimental scenes and emotions. It's actually a very real and well-etched movie that had me, ready, Mitch? You know what? A couple of times had me teary-eyed, possibly in tears. At how
you're an emotionalist person. How did the tears?
Okay, that's enough. That's enough, Eric. I don't want to hear anything more from you. Okay, so yeah, but that's true, Eric. Okay, it got me emotional because it's a very real film, and I highly recommend this movie. And it's in theaters and on demand September 20th. CinemAddicts listeners, this is how much I love this. I'm going to get every week. I try to say, hey, this is a rental purchase on demand, and I give you an Amazon link. If you purchase our links, me, Bruce, Eric, and Anderson, we receive a cut of a commission. I hope, and I'm going to push this film down people's throats. It's so good. Eric Holmes put 6.9 stars right next to Greg. I'm speaking about myself in third person. I apologize for that. But yes, it's not a 5-star movie, but I will say this. You know what? Yeah, it is a 5-star film. The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry is a 5-star film because I remember what Eric Holmes said one time in, I don't know if it was Find Your Film podcast or the CinemAddicts podcast. When a movie of a certain genre just really does the job exceedingly well on a top tier, which this is melodrama, feel-good melodrama with a tinge of bittersweetness to it, peak level. The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry gets 5 stars for me. I am going to hope that more people in our CinemAddicts Facebook group, mostly people who listen to this review, go out and check out The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry, specifically in theaters and on demand September 20th. Eric Holmes, I really feel bad, no joke aside, is I don't think he'll get to it because there's so many stuff coming our way. This is one of these things where we're just going to have to star it, and eventually Eric Holmes and more people will get to see this movie because it will be a shame if people don't get to see by the way, Jim Broadbent is fantastic in this movie, but there are so many different elements. It has touches of comedy. I was talking about the bittersweet moments, but ultimately it's just very, very moving and most of all, real. So The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. I can't believe I gave it 5 stars. That was under I pretty much the hypnosis of Eric Holmes regarding that, but it's actually a true rating from me. Yes, very, very good. Okay, now let's get to a movie that Eric Holmes and I can speak about together. It's a movie called Last Straw. I think they call it a siege thriller. Eric can probably paint a few colors on what siege thrillers are all about. He's seen these type of genre movies more than me. Maybe he can correct me and say, Greg, this is not a siege thriller. It's in theaters, digital, and on demand September 20th. The movie's Last Straw. It centers on Nancy, Jessica Belkin. She is an up-and-coming actress. I interviewed her recently. She's wonderful. As Nancy, the young waitress who works at a rural roadside diner. The diner is owned by her father, played by Jeremy Sisto. You've seen Sisto over the years, a bunch of movies. And yeah, Nancy is just frustrated for some reason. And that last straw may refer to Nancy's just real bad mood in that day. She's alienating her father. She's alienating her coworkers. There's a bunch of roughnecks and hoodlums, as one would say, as an old man like me would say. They come into the diner and they just really piss her off, and she was going to call the cops, and et cetera, et cetera. And the day gets even worse when her dad says, well, you're going to have to cover the night shift as well. So once she alienates her coworkers, she ends up working at the night shift of the diner pretty much all by her lonesome. That is until those masked assailants return and terrorize Nancy. Hence, I suppose, the siege element behind Last Straw. The movie also co-stars Taylor Kowalski as a coworker named Jake. And again, theaters digital on demand September 20th. Jessica Belkin in her interview was saying that she really wants to be sort of a scream queen kind of actress. I have a feeling this is a very plum role for her. She's really just very convincing in this movie. It's an indie film. Hopefully she gets more movies like Last Straw down in the future with her resume. Eric Holmes, I really enjoyed it. I'm nervous. Does Last Straw work for you? Did it work for you?
It does, but I want to start off with Nancy's dad, Edward.
Yes.
That whole movie, I was like, I think that's familiar. Who is that? Got through the whole movie, could not figure out who he was, but I liked his character throughout I liked his character. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't in a whole lot. He just kind of peppered in here and there.
Yeah, sure.
The credits roll. Jeremy's sister. Oh, of course that was Jeremy's sister. Yeah. So that's not really a spoiler unless you're a dumbass like me. Then it's a total spoiler. But I was not expecting this movie to go where it went. It starts off with her taking a pregnancy test, and then she leaves on the side of the road. She's talking with her friend. It's like, so what are you gonna do? Oh, I think I'm gonna kill it. Like, okay. And then she goes to the diner, starts working, and just having a bad. So I thought this was just going to be like an indie drama of someone just, having a progressively bad day in a small podunk town. I thought that's what it was.
Would have worked. It would have worked that way on a linear progression.
Yeah, it was working that way. Like, I was getting kind of annoyed with Nancy, just because, like, I think she kind of puts herself in a position where a lot of the problems she has, she kind of brings it on herself.
100%.
Like, she doesn't know how to fully interact with people in a real way. That, like with the parts with their coworkers, for example.
Downright mean.
There's a way to go, like, hey, guys, look, I know you don't like me, blah, 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 but I'm the manager. I need you to have my back on things. So, like, these guys that were messing with me, if I kick them out, just have my back. You don't have to agree with it and blah, blah, blah. Instead of attacking them and then making them resent her.
Eric, I wonder if Nancy, sorry to interrupt, is she having a bad day, or do you think that's always been ingrained in her character and how she treats the coworkers? That's what I was trying to figure out myself.
I think that's what they're setting up at the beginning, that she's kind of abrasive on a lot of things. I don't know why that would be. Maybe it's a lack of life experience. Maybe it's the fact that, her dad owns the diner and now, she kind of gets her way. I don't think that would be it, though, because that seems like, hey, my dad owns a diner in a small town. Like, that doesn't seem like something that would make you get a big head. But she definitely has some issues, and some of the problems, like, would be mitigated, because I think she escalates the problems more than she mitigates them, which brings us to later on.
The roadblock I want to ask you, Eric, do we say how it's not different, or you're shaking your head? I think you're probably correct there.
I think most people should just watch this movie.
Can we say anything? I mean, nothing really. Huh?
So yeah. I mean, the part is, like, she fires one of the employees, and then he was supposed to work the late shift, so now she has to. And it's like, well, who's going to work the late shift? I'll do it. And then she's there, and then the weirdos with the mask come back that were, messing around with her to begin with. They come back, and then it's a siege movie after that.
Okay,
it's called Last Straw, so you might be able to imagine where it's going. But and then it takes some odd turns from there.
Yes,
I really like the. I guess we can say it does. About halfway through the movie, it replays some stuff does the Rashomon thing.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're not going to say what that is, but just know that, like, halfway through the movie, it's going to cut back to an earlier scene and then kind of replay some stuff. So it's got some of that going on.
Eric, I was reading some reviews of Last Straw, and there were some people who said, when the movie does that aforementioned thing that you said, when it goes back on the flashback or just a Rashomon style, they checked out. So I'm assuming you did.
That was the best part.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
Look, if you, I mean,
I'm glad
other reviewers are right, but yeah, when it took that halfway point and then started playing the same stuff back, but from the different point. Like that's why I like, Rashomon, Groupers, Boomtown, now Last Straw. It's like watching the same thing happen, but from a different perspective. I think is always fun. And they also did some kind of unreliable narrator stuff in that too.
Yes,
because there was stuff that you saw, but now it's playing out different because it's from someone else's perspective. The thing didn't happen the way we saw it happen the first time. In fact, it happened completely different.
Let's mention this. The director is Alan Scott Neal. The writer is Taylor Sardoni. And good script, good direction for an indie film. There's something that happens in the third act, and Eric mentioned something in the middle. The execution cinematically in the third act is, to me, I don't know if you agree with this, Eric Holmes, chef's kiss, because it's a rewatchable, awesome third act, I think, without giving too much away. So
I will say, in movies like this, characters tend to do stupid things.
Sure. Yeah.
Just wait. It'll be explained why they're doing the stupid thing.
Yes. All right. Look, Eric.
And one other thing. There's you can cut this out if you want. I'll be extremely vague, but I love this scene. Someone walks in, sees a body, looks up, turns around and leaves. More characters in movies need to do that. More just walk in, nope, not at all, and then just
right. Yeah. Look, Last Straw. I appreciate this movie more now than I did 2.5 weeks ago. Bruce Purkey, you're going to listen to his review. Eric Holmes, it's fresh in his mind. I also want to mention Taylor Kowalski. I interviewed him as well. Very good actor in Last Straw. In theaters, digital, on demand, September 20th. Eric Holmes, your rating.
Oh.
Well, I'll give my rating for Last Straw.
Yeah,
Last Straw, to me, solid thriller. I really love the little change in it. I'm giving it a straight 4 stars. 4 stars for Last Straw. I really love Jessica Belkin in this, as well as Taylor Kowalski, and really good filmmaking. Okay. Eric Holmes.
I'm going to go 4.5.
Okay.
This could probably bump up, like if I saw it again, because I feel like, especially with the Rashomon style, my guess is that there's a bunch more details in this that I might have missed, that if I catch on a second viewing, I'll be like, I see what you did there. That's clever. My guess is that I miss a bunch of little tiny things like that.
Superficial level, Eric Holmes. Do you agree with this? Whatever that diner was, good diner, good location spot. I thought it was well done, right? And the actual architecture with all that grassy area. It's like you said, it's in Podunk. It seems like it's in the middle of nowhere. Some really good way to when the hits the fan. I really loved how they used the diner and its surrounding area. So.
See, my theory is that Yuma County happened. They burned that diner down, built the new one, and this is like 3 years later. And so it's not the diner. It's like the diner is built on like an Indian burial ground or something like that, and it's just inevitable that in this ongoing diner, whatever diner they put up, just bad things are going to happen every time.
Yes, I am surprised, Eric, that you gave it 4.5 stars. I was thinking maybe it would be a movie that you weren't a big fan of, and I was completely wrong regarding Last Straw. Okay, so Last Straw, starring Jessica Belkin and Taylor. Let me look at it.
Kowalski.
Taylor Kowalski. My bad. Taylor Kowalski on that. Currently on Rotten Tomatoes by maybe 18 or 19 reviews, 78% the rating. So
that's not bad. I probably would have went higher, but it's not bad.
We'll see. Most importantly, tell us what you think.
I wonder how much of that though is like because characters do stupid things in this.
Yes.
But then they go back and like the stupid thing they did, they'll go back and kind of show that scene again, and it completely makes sense why that happened.
Understandable.
It's not either they did it for a specific reason or they didn't do exactly what you think they did.
Right.
And there's also a certain type of people that do certain types of things that don't make sense. I mean, that would be spoiler to go into detail there, but
yes.
Yeah. If you have a certain type of personality or something about you, you're going to make bad decisions. That's not bad writing. That's a character that makes bad decisions. That's all that is.
Yeah, human nature. Yes. Again,
it's kind of like the difference between stupid writing and stupid character. Sometimes the character is just stupid. It's not the fault of the writer.
Yeah, no, very good point, Eric Holmes. On Last Straw, again in theaters, digital, and on demand, September 20th via Shout Studios. I'm very, very happy that Eric gave 4.5 stars. I gave it 4 Let's see what Bruce Purkey's gonna rate it. I still am shook. I am shooketh that Bruce Purkey has left your attic. I hope he does return out of Stockholm Syndrome, Eric Holmes, because he still needs to do some cinematic stuff. And don't make him eat people food because he's gonna turn into a person once
if he
again.
thinks I'm gonna refill his water bowl again. Not gonna happen.
Okay, so that is it for this part 1 of CinemAddicts, okay, for episode 260. We also wanted to mention, because Bruce Purkey is going to review another film called In the Summers, and I am almost finished with In the Summers. It hits theaters, New York's IFC Center on Friday, September 20th, as well as Los Angeles. In the Summers is the winner of the Sundance Grand Jury Prize and Sundance Director Award, and it centers on two sisters who every summer they travel to Las Cruces, New Mexico, to spend time with their father, who is a loving father, but he is very, very irresponsible and possibly dangerous. So in the summers, it's specifically that. In the summers, there's centers on several summers as these young sisters, Violetta and Eva, spend with their father. And you see there's actors who play these siblings as younger, kids age, then in their teens and in their early adulthood. I'm almost at the early adulthood section, but so far it is a very special movie, and I'll have more to say about it now next week's episode of CinemAddicts as well. But in the summers, Bruce Purkey will have that full review. We're gonna actually listen to Bruce Purkey in a few moments. Eric Holmes' final thoughts. This is not sort of an end. We're gonna pick it up and do some reviews of some Frank Grillo movies. But any final musings you want to share?
I saw Beetlejuice.
Oh,
things happen in the movie. Not much to say about it. People like it. I don't know why, but hey, more power to you.
In fairness, did you like the original? Did you like Beetlejuice a lot?
Oh yeah, I loved it.
Okay, you loved it.
Yeah,
but this one, cash grab, maybe.
The most clever thing about it is what they did with the pedophile that played the dad in the original, Jeffrey Jones. Yeah, that's the most clever thing about the movie is how they treated him. Everything else is like, cool, this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and then hey, look, this is happening now, and was checking the watch.
I will say this. Okay, so that's definitely not a recommend, Eric Holmes. No. What is your rating on Beetlejuice?
That right for the Jeffrey Jones thing alone, probably 1.5 stars.
Oh, geez. Yeah. And before we go, I just want to mention something. Little Brother, it hit theaters, digital, and on demand earlier this week. It's another movie that Eric Holmes and Bruce Purkey missed. It's a very fascinating film, and it centers on two brothers. They're played by Daniel Diemer and Philip Ettinger. Philip Ettinger plays a brother who's suicidal, and Daniel Diemer is the little brother who's trying to help his big brother just become better, even though his big brother is suicidal. And it centers on both of their road trip they have, because the older brother, who's suicidal, again played by Philip Ettinger, he lives in New Mexico. So the younger brother picks his brother up, and they go from a road trip from New Mexico, all the way to Seattle. J.K. Simmons from Whiplash and The Accountant plays her understandably concerned father. And Sheridan O'Donnell, who is a Korean-American writer and filmmaker, he is the director behind Little Brother. It is his debut feature. It's very inspiring because he is a low vision disability advocate. He has this thing called retinosis pigmentosa, which was essentially a debilitating eye disease. He learned about his situation with RP in 2020 before, maybe a couple of years into production of Little Brother. This movie took 6 years to make, and it is a very special film. I was talking about getting teary-eyed with Harold Fry. Little tears did flow for Little Brother as well for me. Won Audience Award at the 2023 Atlanta Film Festival. Eric Holmes, do you remember anything about First Reformed? Understandably so, if you liked it or not, but it came out 2017, 2018. Did you ever see that movie with Ethan Hawke and directed by Paul Schrader? Ethan Hawke plays a priest. Do you remember that a little bit? Yeah, well, Philip Ettinger, he has this really interesting situation with Ethan Hawke where they just talk about faith and the world crumbling down, and it's about maybe a 10-minute discussion. And yeah, he's a very special actor, very magnetic, and just a really interesting actor. And I like Daniel Diemer. He plays the little brother, and he's sort of in a straight man role in this movie. a very special film. It's a look, even though the issue of suicide, understandably, and mental health is very important and downbeat, it's something that has to be discussed. That said, it's also a really well-crafted story by filmmaker Sheridan O'Donnell. I will also leave the links, rent or purchase links for Little Brother. High recommendation from me. I'm giving Little Brother, Eric Holmes, you can write it down since I tend to forget these ratings, but thank you, Eric Holmes, for being a guidepost for these ratings. 4.5 stars for Little Brother. Again, it hit theaters, digital, and on demand on September 17th, earlier this week. And Little Brother is right in our Frank Grillo episode, which I am now kicking away from our Frank Grillo episode. So you and I can start episode part 2 of CinemAddicts, which is Frank Grillo and Juan Pablo Raba. Before we go, any final thoughts, Eric Holmes?
Yeah, skip Beetlejuice.
Skip Beetlejuice. Skip Beetlejuice.
Let's go with something better. You know what? I know what I can bring up.
Yeah.
There's a new Quentin Dupieux movie coming out soon. Get excited for that.
Okay.
We'll end on a positive note.
Oh, have you seen Dali yet, or are you just saying because you know Quentin Dupieux?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just saying there's a Quentin Dupieux movie coming out soon.
Yeah, I sense
the fact that a Quentin Dupieux movie is coming out soon is enough to get excited about.
Are you also? There's another movie. There's something called Frankie Frico or Frico Friday. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
You know what? Maybe I saw it. Maybe I didn't. But
it's a lot of like.
We got Quentin Dupieux. We got what's his name? Steven
something. Yeah,
the director from Psycho Gorman.
Yeah,
got a new one coming out.
Okay,
and these are
not like you've seen these movies, right? You're doing your
them.
job, right? You're doing your job. You're seeing the movies that are assigned on a given week. You haven't got. I have not watched them, but I suspect. You suspect?
I suspect that these are movies that probably should be talked about come award season.
Okay.
And will not be talked about come award season.
Oh, very, very good. That's Dali.
They'll talk about some overhyped Ron Howard movie instead.
Okay, bring it back.
Billy Elegy, do you think it should win an Oscar?
Oh, here we go. Look.
Years later,
for the record,
Ryder is now running as vice president for Donald Trump. So I was right, you were wrong. Go F yourself. This is a
family show. Yeah, we can actually keep because we can say F yourself because F is a letter. So it's a family show. And of course, before we get to Bruce, here's Claire.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining CinemAddicts.
Welcome back to the CinemAttic, the CinemAttic, where I am kept by Eric and Greg to watch movies. We've done this before. You know the drill. You know what's going on here. You know that I'm here. Anyway, I don't have a ton of movies this week. I only have 3 features, but they're all pretty solid, which is good. I'm going to do worst to best. But like I said, there isn't really a worst this week. And I don't really have any recommendations. I've been mostly watching TV series. Maybe I'll get to some of those later. There's a new season of Slow Horses, and there's a few other things that I've been watching. But for this week, I have 3 features, and that is going to be Last Straw, In the Summers, and The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. You have probably already heard about these movies earlier in the episode, as well as like 10 other movies. I don't know what happened this week. Eric probably didn't do it, and Greg probably went crazy and just asked for every screener possible, and they tried to watch them all. I don't know. I saw a list of like 6 or 7 movies, and I said, well, I'm going to pick the 3 that no one's watched yet. They look different, and then maybe that way at least they all get seen by somebody. And then I think Greg hopped on a couple of these as well. You already know because you've already listened to it. Anyway, first movie is Last Straw, directed by Alan Scott Neal, starring Jessica Belkin as Nancy. So, at first glance, I thought this is going to be just your basic middle-of-the-road siege thriller with a lot of elements that we've kind of seen before. Basic concept is you have a young girl, a young woman. She's working at her dad's diner. This is old school, like 50s style diner, but it's current day. But for a while, I wasn't sure if it was current day, partly because they use analog phones a lot in this movie that are there at the diner and don't use their cell phones a lot in the movie, but then you do see cell phones. So there was some question there, but whatever. There are cell phones, so it is at least semi-current day. Doesn't seem to really matter too much. This is one of those movies where you do have to give up a little bit of logic. Anyway, what it looked like it was going to be at first is She works at this diner, works for her dad, is annoyed she's going to have to work the evening shift late night shift, really. So, and some things happen, some conflicts with her coworkers that causes her to be alone there, working alone at night. And earlier in the day, she had come in contact with some ruffians, some local bad news kids riding their mopeds, which is almost a stereotype, riding their mopeds instead of motorcycles. In most of the 70s and late 60s movies, they would have been a biker gang of motorcyclists. But here they're moped riding teens that are trouble, give her a hard time. They throw some roadkill at her and she kicks them out and she takes no guff from them, and they're like, we'll be back. And they have masks, because in these kind of movies, don't they always have masks? I'm going to tilt their heads and look creepy. Sure, why not? And they sure enough, they come back, and now she's stuck alone in this place. And will she get terrorized by them? Will she kill them all? Will she survive? Will she die? Who knows? What will happen? The very first shots of the movie, this is one of those movies where the very first shots of the movie are carnage, where you see a bunch of dead and or injured people at this diner, but you don't see their faces, so you're not sure who you're seeing. And then you flash back, 24 hours to see what led to that point. I know that Eric can be very annoyed by that. So anyway, kind of long story short on this, probably through the first half, I was like, okay, this is pretty generic. We've seen this before. There's a lot of leaps of logic. I'm kind of annoyed by the, like I said, the tilted head, mask-wearing people who are terrorizing the lone woman. I'm kind of enjoying her character because she's very, she looks like she'd be your kind of standard, blonde, young woman, but she's very hardcore. Like, when she gets upset with things, she's just like not having it. And this with her coworkers and with people coming to the diner, almost to the point that if her dad didn't own this diner, I don't think she'd have a job there, because her customer service skills are definitely not on the highest level when it comes to having to appease your customers or kind of appease your fellow worker. She's just not having it. Anyway, like I said, halfway through, I was kind of like, okay, whatever, this is fine. And then it makes a turn, and I'm not going to say what happens, so just say there's a change in context. First of all, this kind of movie doesn't usually do that. And when that change of context occurred about halfway through, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. That's just something different. Is this going to just be a mess, or is this going to work? And I really ended up appreciating the change of context. And I'll just say we follow another character for a while, which I didn't think would be interesting, and I ended up really liking that. And I liked kind of where it went. And it ended up being a much more unique movie than I expected it to be for this kind of just, potboiler, thriller-ish kind of semi, this horror adjacent sort of like I said, a siege movie. And yeah, that's not going to change the world still, but it had a lot more going on in it than I thought it would. Really cool soundtrack too. Not soundtrack, but score. I'm taking it back. The soundtrack. There's some really cool songs they drop in here. Did I write down the name of the band? I looked them up. There's some stuff she's playing at one point. She's all alone in the diner and throws on the jukebox, kind of old-fashioned, semi-old-fashioned. It's not actual vinyl, but it's like CDs, like a CD jukebox. I mean, also the songs that are in there, like that song's in there for the public, but whatever. Okay, sounds good to me. But it's pretty cool songs that they have too. Yeah, I would recommend this movie, and I'm surprised at the end that I would have recommended this movie kind of so much. But I think if you like a little bit odd, a little bit unexpected indie thrillers, it's not as good as Last Stop at Yuma County, which obviously is the comparison from this year, 2 diner movies with bad things going on at a diner. It's not that level. It's not that tight of a script, or just that one's way more, I guess, flashy with characters at least. But it's pretty darn good. And I was thinking, the beginning, this would be a 2.5 or something for me. And I think when I walked away from this movie, I'm between 3.5 and 4. I think I'm actually probably leaning towards 4. I think I'll go 4 stars on this. Some people, this might not work as much, but if you kind of like thrillers with a little bit of an interesting change up to them, I think this movie is something you might want to check out. At least streaming. If you don't go check it in the theaters. I'm not sure if it's going to be in the theaters. Once again, I'm terrible at that kind of stuff. Like where is it going? Anyway, I would recommend Last Straw. Pretty good. Okay, next favorite one. And these are almost ties here. In fact, I haven't even put a rating on this one. This is The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. Now, This is directed by Hetty McDonald. And the main things you want to know here is there's a bunch of people in this movie, but really this is the Jim Broadbent show, playing Harold Fry. And then his wife, Maureen, is played by Penelope Wilton. This is a high concept movie, and when you see or read the blurb about it or hear a review like I'm going to give, you'll probably be like, oh, I've seen this kind of movie. I know what this movie is. And to some degree, you'll be right. So if you didn't know, like the movie The Straight Story, which was the famously rated G David Lynch movie where the guy is riding across a state on his riding lawnmower to go meet his brother, and the adventures that ensues upon the way. This kind of falls into that category. So the basic concept is this. Harold Fry, older dude. If you know Broadbent, you know he's an older dude. He's an awesome guy. If you've not seen him, look up Broadbent. I bet you've seen him in a million movies and didn't know it. Broadbent's character, Harold Fry, he gets a notification that his a coworker, a long-lost coworker of his, Queenie is in hospice and probably going to pass soon. And he seems really struck hard by this when he hears it. And his wife seems really kind of annoyed or like doesn't want to talk about it. And you're thinking to yourself, what's the deal? Was that a old flame? Maybe an affair? If it was his coworker and he was still with his current wife at the time, you know, what's up with that? Either way, he definitely feels driven to write a note back, at least saying, you know, that he's you know, thinking about her and wishing her well and sorry to hear what happening to her. He really writes like the most basic kind of I'm sorry note, and then walks off to go post this note to Queenie. Walks away, walks down the street, small little coastal British town, South England, and he is about to mail it, and he waits, he's not sure. He goes to like a local shop, like a little, I guess in New York you call it a bodega, but you know, like a little mini mart kind of a place. You know, blue-haired girl there, just, you know, bored, like the usual, like kind of person that would be stuck in a place like that. And he ends up having a small conversation with her and mentions what he's doing. And the girl says something to the effect of she had a family member and that positivity and thinking positively helped save that person or kept that person alive longer because, you know, the positive attitude is what mattered even more than the medical care. And this kind of strikes him. So instead of mailing this note, he gets on the local like payphone, which I guess they still have somewhere, gets on a payphone, calls the hospice and says, tell Queenie, because Queenie's not available. He tries to talk to Queenie and then she's not available. She's asleep. She's resting. Well, give her this message. You know, Harold Fry is coming. He's going to be there. And as long as I take to get there, she has to stay alive. She's going to stay alive. I've got to get to her. You know, like this is his thing. He's decided if he's going to get to her, it'll at least keep her alive that long. And he starts walking. And that's the concept of this movie. He is going to walk to get to Queenie. And now you're really thinking like, wow, what is the deal with Queenie? So you will eventually find out what the deal is with Queenie. But there's a reason that he's so struck to have to do such a kind of a big thing. And then he starts walking and you find out very quickly that it's not a short walk. If you look at the map, he's walking from South England to basically almost Scotland. This is like almost, I think, 500 miles, they say. They keep saying miles, which is weird. All the people keep saying miles. I thought it was kilometers. Maybe in England they still go with miles. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the rule with miles and kilometers is in England. Either way, he has a walk, and predictably he's going to encounter different people along the way. And this is one of those movies that at every moment could easily slip into absolute sappiness, absolute schmaltz. And it tips its toes into that for sure. And it won't surprise you 100%. I mean, you're gonna kind of get what you think you're gonna get, but it never goes like full Forrest Gump. You know, Forrest Gump in this whole sequence when he's basically running across America. I don't know how long that sequence is in the movie, maybe 15 minutes or 10 minutes or something. And everyone's following him and they're cheering him on. He's growing his beard and all that. I mean, you could say there's elements of that in here, but they never lean into that, and they always almost lean away from that. So every time it's going to kind of go into that sort of stuff, something happens that kind of pulls that out and makes it a little less schmaltzy or a little more actual unique storytelling. And I appreciated that a lot. And the secret sauce to this movie, what really keeps it from getting too predictably schmaltzy, is his wife, Maureen. Because this kind of movie, usually in this kind of movie, the main character, for whatever reason, is a loner. Like, they're alone in the world. So you don't have to explain, like, well, what about the people they left behind? Because that would be the obvious question, right? Well, they answer that question here, and Maureen, who he has left behind and not told he was going to leave, she is not having this. She is pissed off. She's angry. She's upset. She's, what am I supposed to do? And she's just stuck in her house. They have a neighbor too. I think Rex was his name, if I remember correctly. I don't know if I wrote down the actor's name, but he's good. And he's, kind of her confidant, or kind of her shoulder to cry on a little bit, but she's just like, what the heck, and he does call her once in a while. He being Harold Fry calls Maureen once in a while to say, I'm here now. How's it going? That kind of stuff. So I would say if you are kind of down for this sort of movie, kind of a feel-good movie, but a little bit of emotion in there, I think this movie is pretty great. And Jim Broadbent is just fantastic, as you might expect. And once again, Penelope Wilton is great in this as well. Will it give you a few of those emotional moments if you want them? Absolutely. But it'll give you some other stuff too. And you definitely find out, what is the motivation? Like, what is really driving Harold Fry? Like, why is he doing this? And what demon or demons is he trying to work out? Like, he's not just going to see Queenie. So it really has a lot of stuff to flesh it out and give you some good character stuff in here as well. I'm going to go 4.5. I think this is a really good movie. This is one of those movies that people are going to discover. It's going to end up on streaming somewhere. People are going to be like, I guess I'll put that on. And then some people are going to really, really end up loving this movie. And I liked it a lot. So I'm kind of in more to the love camp than not. So yeah, sorry. I've got to take a sip of coffee from my Golden Girls cup because, hey, why wouldn't you? Sorry if that gives you agita. All right. Last movie, which I think is the best movie, but honestly, it's almost a tie between that and Harold Fry. And I did not have much expectation for this movie. This movie is called In the Summers, directed by Alessandro Lacarazo. I'll describe why there's a whole bunch of actors in this movie. But one of the main roles is Vincente, played by Residente. And I was like, immediately when I looked up the cast list, I'm like, Residente? Why is the person just named Residente? I might have this wrong because I didn't go back and search it up. But Residente is a hip-hop rap artist, I want to say from Puerto Rico? I could be wrong, but apparently not really known for acting too much, but has a kind of a major role in this movie. Basic concept of this movie is it's kind of a movie told in chapters, and as far as the structure goes, and a little bit of themes, as far as the structure goes, Moonlight is a great comparison, because if you know Moonlight, you're following that same boy, kind of his discovery of, being gay and what it means to be a black gay man living in the world, all that stuff, right? Great, fantastic movie, obviously. And how that movie would have a whole sequence and then jump forward a few years to have a whole other sequence. Well, this movie kind of does that stuff because it starts out and you're at an airport in, did I write down the name of the city they're in? Probably not, because I'm dumb. Shoot. I don't think I wrote it down. Oh, Las Cruces. Okay, so it starts out, it's like, they have a little airport in Las Cruces, and it shows the two little girls, probably like, I don't know, 8 and 10, something like that age range, and they're waiting at the airport, and their dad comes, picks them up. The dad is Vicente, and the two girls are, the older girls, Violeta, and the younger girls, Ava. And Violeta and Ava come and meet, and you get the feeling that, like, it's in the summer, right? So you get the idea, it's like, in the summer, they get to go see their dad, that their parents are split up. They don't really get into huge detail, but you get the idea he's kind of been out of their lives until about now, about when we first see them. And he's trying to kind of that dad who's been a deadbeat or not really been part of their lives, not been there for them. Maybe he was a drunk, maybe he was into drugs, maybe he got into prison. You're not sure of his whole past. He might have just been not there, but for whatever reason, he's trying to reconnect with them and trying to really be there for him in a way that will, like, make them love him again, that kind of thing. That's the feel you get right out the gate. And he's taking them taking him out to his local places. You know, they have a pool place, place to play pool. And it's also basically just a bar, and the bartender knows him pretty well. And it's fine, but, you know, would you take the two little girls there? Probably not, but he's trying to, you know, show him that he's a good dad. And he looks like he's recently got his mother's house. So it has all the trappings of like an older woman's house, not a guy's house. And it's in good, you know, all taken care of. So you get the feeling like maybe she just recently passed and he, you know, maybe inherited that house. So he's trying to do everything he can to make this great place for the kids and to make them kind of reconnect with him. And what is really good about the movie, so either you will or not connect with this movie based on a couple things. You're not going to get a huge plotty story. This is a movie about vignettes in time and seeing how time affects the relationship, especially of these three characters. There's other characters too that you keep seeing, but the three main characters, the two daughters, Violetta and Eva, and the dad, Vicente. And you're going to see a few years later, another summer, how have they changed when they get there? How have they changed by the time they leave from that summer? And if you lock in like I did, it is fantastic. The first of all, I don't know how many different actors they had for the daughters, probably at least 3 sets, and they're all great, and you always know who they are, and they really do differentiate the two daughters. Just once again to say, Violetta's the older, and Violetta's a little bit more, she's a little more askance at the dad. You can tell she's already a little bit like, I'm not picking up what you're putting down, dude, and you have to prove it to me, because I already am kind of looking at you sideways, not loving you so much. And you also quickly find out that she is also a little bit of an outsider in the world. I'm not going to tell you why, but that discovery and that journey she goes on is really interesting. But she is also like her father in that she's very scientific minded, and you find out very quickly he's not living that life, but he always had a huge interest in the things like astronomy and science. And even though it looks like his life has kind of gone down a different path, not anything like that, he does have a deep kind of a love and respect for the scientific stuff, which you wouldn't expect when you first see him. And you don't expect really when you see his personality throughout. It doesn't really fit with that. But I love that because that shows some kind of depth to this. Dog back there. Can you see our dog? She's creeping in here. And the younger daughter, Ava, she definitely wants to please. She wants to love dad. She wants dad to love her. She really wants to have that feeling of connection. You can tell that they're both kind of striving for the same thing, but whether they're going to quite get it is hard to say. And I just love how from summer to summer, the way things change, the way the girls kind of grow up and change, it really shows how you can both escape your family influence if it's not a positive family influence, but how you also kind of crave that approval, and how some things, even negative things, can get almost unconsciously adopted by a family member. It's really complex and it feels very genuine. This has got to be based a lot on someone's real life. I love the way it looks. It's very simple. It's not super flashy, but little things like each chapter is just like a number. It doesn't say the year or anything. It's just a number, but it's one of the summers. And there's like a little, kind of like a still life of just like tchotchkes and stuff from the house. And each time you get a new summer, that little still life is different. Like stuff has been added or taken away, and you start to kind of notice there's a lot of little things in there that kind of play off of stuff you've seen before. And there's a lot of great details. There's some really obvious ones, like they start in the first summer. There's a nice pool out back, and you're going to see how that pool changes over time. That one's the kind of the more obvious change in time. But there's a lot of other really subtle things, things in the house. Places they go, the pool place they go, the woman who's the bartender at the place they go. How does that person continue to change over time? How do just the girls in general change over time? To me, this is a very good family drama, and I will go 4.5 stars on this one as well. So basically a tie. It's just kind of depending on what the mood and what you're looking for between this and Harold Fry. I think Eric would maybe not love this movie so much, but he might surprise you, because I think there's more character stuff going on here than some of the indie movies he doesn't like so much. I'm 90% sure Greg would really like this movie. Anyway, that's my 3 recommendations for this week, or 3 features for this week from the CinemAttic. I think you have 3 solid movies, depending on your mood and depending on what you dig and what kind of things kind of grab your eye. I think that In the Summer's Last Straw and The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry are probably 3 movies you've never heard of and 3 movies that are definitely worth your time.